Khushbu Soni. I'm the founder of The Mainstream. Well, today on our series of navigating the ever-evolving cybersecurity landscape powered by Cloudflare, I am super thrilled to share having this dialogue with Manmeet Thakur, who is the Deputy General Manager of IT and CISO. Manmeet has more than 2 decades of experience in leading digital transformation and cybersecurity strategy. Manmeet is not just a technologist, but a visionary business leader. And as a CISO, he has played a pivotal role in driving enterprise wide adoption of emerging technologies like AI, cloud, and automation while cultivating a security first culture that is both resilient and forward looking. Manmeet, it is an absolute pleasure to have you today, and we're super excited to having this conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you, Khushbu, for your kind introduction and for having me here today. Basically, it's a real pleasure to be part of this conversation, especially at the time when cybersecurity is not just a critical but central to how we can build trust and resilience and innovation at scale. Thank you very much, and thank you, Hitesh. Hi, Hitesh.
Superb. Very well said. Right timings to have this kind of dialogues. And we also have Hitesh Pathak. We've done his introduction in our previous episodes, but I'm going to take a few seconds to quickly do that once again. Hitesh Pathak is Head of Solutions Engineering at Cloudflare, and with over 25 plus years of experience in IT and cybersecurity space, Hitesh has worn many hats from leading pre-sales and architecture discussions with top banks and enterprises CISOs to heading security engineering in various organizations such as Checkpoint, and now at Cloudflare, he's driving tech strategy and client engagement across mid-market and enterprise segments in India. Hitesh, once again, welcome.
Thank you, Khushbu, for having me once again. I'm super excited to see how this unfolds. And I'm sure, I will learn a lot by having this discussion with Mr. Manmeet and, understand from his experiences as well. So looking forward.
Absolutely. Great. So, like we all said that we are in time where AI is reshaping cybersecurity on both ends, and it's helping us predict and prevent attacks more efficiently, but it's also being used to launch them, right? So it's a fascinating and slightly intimidating duality. And today we'll unpack what this really means for businesses, teams, and leaders. And I would want to begin with, putting across my first question, Manmeet, to you. As a CISO, what are some of the most significant shifts you've observed in the cybersecurity landscape over the last 2 years?
Okay, well, I think over the last 2 years, what I have personally observed that the cybersecurity landscape has gone through a tectonic shift. Basically, now it is not longer about just defending the perimeter firewall or just because, frankly, there is no perimeter anymore right now. With no explanation of hybrid cloud first strategy, now people are moving. We have moved from last more than a year. Now people are more focusing on OT security. Earlier, nobody was talking about OT security. And in IT manufacturing and financial institution, if I talk about the attack surface has widened like never before, right? Due to AI or other technologies, right? Now, if I talk about that engineer, right, who are just 2-3 months of experience because of the help of the AI, he can perform the attacks, right? Earlier, it used to be just kind of a data leak kind of issues. Now, ransomware has come into the picture. The major shift which I have feel that is one is the ransomware gangs are operating now. The regulatory pressures, like new regulations are coming up, like certain has introduced a couple of years ago. Now then DBDB Act is also coming, and then now AI is again game changing in this last basically 1 or 2 years, basically, right? Now where everybody is talking about AI and AI, where I see a lot of things where AI is both hero and villain, right? And generative AI is basically turbocharged the threat actor, enabling energies and highly targeted phishing and deepfake attacks. Right, we have seen a lot of cases where people have lost their entire money, and most of the businesses suffered more than 15 days or a month due to these kind of attacks. Right, but at the same time, we are leveraging AI for faster detection and automations also. Though the ratio is less as compared to the attack side, the attackers are more advantaging the AI rather than the defensing team, and protective defense is not using as much as on the real ground. People are not talking about that, but anyway, the things will improve definitely. And the threats have basically become industrialized right now. The ransomware gangs are operating like a tech startups. Now they are not the basically hackers. They are tech startups, and most of the companies, or most in some of the company, due to the cross-border policies are not available, people are leveraging it. The sponsored attacks, where R&D and customer supports are even affiliated programs. They are running at like a startup, right? For the hackers, the kind of pace and precision and precedence of these attacks basically are nothing short of military grades, right? And if I'm not wrong, that next World War would be on the data cyber only. So that kind of thing we have seen in recent basically wars. If you talk about Rus or Ukraine or Indian wars with our enemy right now, that there are a lot of things has been sponsored, right? I have part of those discussions where the enemies were basically trying to hack us, and they have even kind of run kind of a program where they were sponsoring and they were funding to the external hackers if they can attack us, right? So I think what is clear in that cybersecurity now is it is a basically strategic business enabler, not a cost center. Correct. So earlier it was just the businesses were focusing that IT or the cybersecurity was considered as a cost center only. But right now things are changing. The mindset of the management is also changing right now. In last 1 or 2 years, it has changed a lot. I think now cybersecurity is part of boardroom discussions where earlier nobody was bothered about talking. It was earlier only matter of the IT. Correct. And as a CIO or CISO, I think my role has evolved like a tech guardian to the business risk advisor rather than if we talk about 2 or 3 years back, then it was just a IT support kind of thing.
Right. Very well said. I think we've seen the whole significant shift in how cybersecurity has become a priority in the last couple of years, and how hackers are running these multi-billion, in fact, sophisticated organizations to run these attacks. Hitesh, from your lens at Cloudflare,
But one thing, sorry, I would like to add
yes,
because of these things, basically the mindset is shift right now. What I feel personally, it is
yeah.
completely shift now. People are more aware. Even the promoters or the board members are now talking to cybers. I think that is the biggest change which I see.
True. That is so true. To add on to that, Hitesh, from your lens at Cloudflare, supporting multiple industries, you interact with so many CISOs and CIOs across verticals. What are some of the newer attack vectors or threat patterns that you've been seeing emerge more frequently?
So I think if you look at Khushbu, and thanks for this great question. If you look at the total addressable market in terms of the attack surface, right? Things have not evolved much. It's just that the number of attacks have gone up, right? If I just put together the entire threat landscape,
Yeah,
okay, it still largely contributes to an application layer attack, okay,
right.
which also includes your DDoS attack, includes your API, bot
Yeah,
management, phishing, for example, from email perspective, right? Is still one of the biggest vector through which the attackers are trying to gain advantage and infiltrate into any organization. Because that's a very easiest thing, easiest thing for an attacker to craft an attack, right? The way I see more of sophistication happening and advancement happening is the attackers are using more of a AI based tool to make this attack either simple so that anybody can use it. You don't need a very heavy programming skills or mindset to run a program like this. Second is it has become so sophisticated that sometimes even the systems who are supposed to be blocking them based on the attack pattern and the heuristic analysis, they also fail at times. Okay, it's not that we are blaming that the OEMs are not able to protect, but it's just that the things have become so much sophisticated that sometimes it also turns out to be false positive. It just turns out to be that something getting missed because it still looks like a very very legitimate transaction,
right.
right? So the biggest thing that I see as involvement perspective, of course, the threat vectors and the attack vectors still remain the same, more or less. It's just that the because of AI adoption, because of the sophistication of the attack nature, things have become more and more complex. Okay. Second thing is today when customers are looking at from a typical organizational like boundary centric organization or deployment to a multi-cloud architecture to more of a hybrid architecture, they are automatically getting exposed to more and more risk, right? And that is where some of these strategies have to come in place, where you don't just look at from a point products perspective, but also look at holistically. How can you protect your organization across cloud attacks, across email attacks, across things which are directly targeted to you from an organization standpoint, somebody who's constantly watching and monitoring this. So I think I would say that yeah, look at the number of attacks which have gone up. Like APIs have grown, API attacks have grown 300 times, right, in last 1 year. DDoS, again, because of the recent advisory released by certain, right? They're asking all the large organizations, including BFSI primarily, to strengthen their DDoS defense mechanism, right?
Correct.
Because of the attacks happening. So yeah, I mean, more or less, the attack vector has growing and will continue to grow, I believe. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like we're talking about AI and so much of advancements in technology and the whole transformation that has happened in the whole tech landscape as well. Manmeet, with AI, cloud, and automation now at a central of enterprise strategies, how do you balance innovation with cyber risk? And how do you draw that line between agility and caution?
See, look, in basically today's era where innovation and cybersecurity can't be at the war with each other, right? If we want to go with the innovation, then definitely this will be there. And I don't slow down the team, right? Because I build the great guardrail between so that both of the team can move fast without pressing each other's responsibilities, basically. And yeah, also, it is not about drawing line; it is about the creating a real time, basically feedback loops where risk and the agility and speed inform each other's, right? So the biggest example is the DevSecOps, the DevSecOps pipeline where the developer are doing something, right? Earlier days, basically, it was a rework kind of thing, and it was basically, I would say, a reactive approach rather than a proactive approach. Now we are going to the proactive approach where whenever the developer is doing anything, so at the real time he can get to know that what is the gap and what is the basically vulnerability in his developed code or something or somewhere else, so that before going to live the risk can be mitigated and vulnerability can be closed. Also, that all the vulnerabilities or risks you cannot mitigate, right? If we go with the mitigation of 100% risk or 100% vulnerability, then we will not be able to do the business, right? So we have to first select and we have to choose what is the most critical things where we can find the basically attacks or which can harm us or which can damage our basically reputation. So we try to first close all those kind of things rather than creating a hurdle for the innovation team where the innovation can be stopped, right? And also the basically where the real telemetry attack surface management and behavioral analytics plays a big role basically, right? So just to avoid all those things, the synergy has to be set up between all the team members. Then and again, that automation basically helps reduce all the human errors. So as much as we can automate the processes, I think it is good for us, and we are working towards that direction only. And also, we never outsource our critical decisions to any other party, right? We do take care of all these things in house, and then there will I would say that there will always will be a loop in the team between high risk calls and the technology innovations. So I think automation is definitely helping us to reduce all these things, and that's how we innovate boldly but securely.
Superb. Hitesh, from a solution engineering standpoint, how can organizations evolve their cybersecurity architecture to be more proactive than reactive? And are there some gaps that you see? You talked to a lot of BFSI and manufacturing sectors. So do you see some common gaps within the whole architecture of cybersecurity?
Yeah, the first and foremost is the thought process, right? So the moment I talk to a lot of customers, I have this consultative approach, when we look at their current landscape, right? What I come to know is most of them have a very single approach where they're looking for a silver bullet. Okay. My advice to them was that there is never a silver bullet in case of a cybersecurity, right? You cannot have solution deployed expecting that solution to solve all your problems, right? Because there are specific areas, there are specific segments or portions which need a very specific targeted defense mechanism. Okay. Now, I give an example that today's the attacks are multi-vector, which means that any organization, let's say if they're spending too much time on securing their perimeter, right, would possibly be unaware of that the attacker is still planning an attack through cloud mechanism, which is currently not under their scanner or their purview of securing the entry and exit point, right? And that's the reason where the sophistication happens. The attackers take the advantage of customers' unawareness. So I would say from a solution engineering perspective, when we look at any customer landscape, right, we look at two or three things. One is how complex is the environment, right? Customer, what they do is over a period of time to strengthen their defense and depth in terms of securing the organization, they make a lot of investment in terms of number of OEMs, in terms of solutions being deployed, but eventually it lands up into complexity to such an extent that it's very difficult for them to get the exact ROI out of the investment which is being made. I'll give an example. Tomorrow, let's say if you have two, three OEMs, being deployed in an environment, it is very difficult for you to maintain in-house skills to manage all those environments, OEM boxes. And then second thing is how do you decipher the logs which comes out of this environment, right? It's a huge number of information which is being spitted out of this appliances, but who's looking at and monitoring them? So you need an SIEM who can do all this, information collection, and then filter the most critical one so that you only focus on the one. So I think that is where we say that, try and reduce the complexity. Point number one, get rid of some of the appliances and look at consolidation as an approach where you have fewer components to manage, but again, not to compromise on the security architecture. And third is the implement automation, as Mr. Manmeet mentioned, so that you reduce the human element. Okay, make systems so proactive that in case of any eventually, if it has to happen, right, the system gets any early notification. So okay, something is being planted. Can I stop that attack? Okay, but not just stop at that particular instance. Also look at what if, let's say, attacker is successful. Can I spread the lateral movement? Right, which is another second defense mechanism where you have to also think that what if something is reaching inside my network, somebody is able to break through, but how do I stop the damage, right? So consolidation, simplification, and automation in terms of looking at the infrastructure to stay ahead of the attacker thinking mindset is what I would say we should be looking at from a design standpoint.
Technology and solutions available, consolidation should be a priority. Very well said. Manmeet, you've spoken about building a robust cybersecurity posture. What foundational elements do you believe every CISO must get right, regardless of industry size?
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, basically, what I feel, look, as long as tool evolves, then threat evolves, right? So, but fundamental will not be changed. It remains same. If we talk about 10 year ago's approach, or whether it is in the where AI or generative AI we are talking about, the fundamental, right? So every CISO, what I recommend, we should not lose our basics. No matter the industry size, no matter the industry type or the sector, right? Basics remains same for each and everybody. So I must say that first five things which we should, I think, know that one, protect your assets. First, we should know what is our assets, right? We have to identify. We have to know that what are my external exposure, right? We are fighting each others to close the vulnerabilities, close the internal gaps, and deploying so many tools, but we never know what are my external facing, basically assets, where we can get the more threats, right? The patching, we are focusing more to patch entire basically environment, which is, I think, quite impossible for any organization. So the focus should be on basically first on the external facing applications, and we should do the patching practically basis, and right, without losing it. Then reduction has to be fast. MTD and MTTR we're talking about, that has to be fast, right? Right now we are talking where the response time is less than 5 minutes, right? To build up, we should build basically security first cultures, right? And I think one mistake can destroy your entire empire, right? So if you have basically, I would say that if you have published so many applications, internal or external, but if your one application is unpatched, unprotected, remain like your application, you have 50 applications, for 49 are going via the WAF, and then suddenly one application has been launched without protection of WAF and any other security tools, right? And that attack surface can come and you can be targeted, right? So we should know what are my assets and what are my complete basically threats which we need to cover up. And basically, in a fintech world where we are talking about AI, XDR, zero trust, but if we don't have the complete visibility of my asset, then there is no use of use investments, right? Like as Hitesh also said, people are now talking so much on the tools and technologies, but what happen if my systems are unpatched? What happen if my assets are not fully protected with the XDR, right? Then what happen if my URLs are published without WAF and my 99 URLs, let's say 99% URLs are public with WAF, and one we have missed to basically protect in the WAF side, right? So we will already lost if we I would say that do not cover the 100% coverage. We should know basically first target should be the on external surface only, and cybersecurity is not a magic. Basically, it is a discipline, which I must to emphasize because it is not that one-time job. If you are deploying any tool like AI or XDR, WAF, anything, you have deployed it once and then you have done the 100% coverage, and then for next 3 months you are not even reviewing it. It has to be reviewed on weekly basis, right? Your implementation, your coverage, and what kind of threats you are coming. As cyber is basically it's not an optional. If we have to survive, then we have to put a strong monitoring mechanism where we can review, we can look out the ROI. Basically, otherwise it will be very difficult, and there will be no use of deploying so much huge technology and investing much money if we are not basically focusing on those areas.
Great. Hitesh, Cloudflare is known for its zero trust approach and edge protection. How do you see the role of zero trust evolving, especially in the remote first and the hybrid work models that we live?
This is at a very, very inflection point, right? I see that almost every organization today has some strategy around zero trust, right?
Yeah.
They are on a different journey. Somewhere are just some customers are just beginning their journey. Some customers have already reached a mature stage, right? Now they're looking at how can they now include third-party contractors and those workers to be part of the zero trust architecture. So I believe this is still an evolving space. However, the use cases are very, very clear in terms of what the organizations can do and start with, right? First thing I would say that today they are looking at replacing the VPN. Okay, because VPN is not a secure mechanism. So first thing that you should do is get rid of VPN technology and look at how can you move that to zero trust based architecture. Second important thing is if you look at some of the use cases, right? Today, what is the objective of any customer who wants to keep themselves away from cyber threats? Is that keep the threats away from the organization. And one of the classic use cases, do not run or let their team members or their employees run any unknown element into their environment, right? One thing is that you can offer them something like a remote browser and isolation technology, right? Which allows them to access the internet, but do not download anything on their environment, which means that the threats will never be downloaded and come into the organization boundary, right? That's the easiest way of allowing them the access, but not exposing your own infrastructure, which can get compromised, right? So that is again part of the zero trust technology. And third is implement the authentication and authorization to each and every step of your way. Right? So today it is not just about knowing who can access, but also telling them how can they access. Right. So the posture management, identifying users versus the third-party contractors, and knowing who can access what resources is all about the science. And that is what the zero trust implementation is all talk about. That can I secure my user infrastructure? Can I secure my assets? How do I gain the access to the same application and resources without compromising my security architecture? It's all about zero trust, right? So I would say this is what Cloudflare is focusing, helping our customers to transform their journey when they're moving from a legacy architecture to a zero trust based and enterprise design and architecture.
Lovely. Great. This has been a great conversation. I'm just going to take one last minute, and I have a small rapid fire segment that I have curated. I have a few questions for both of you. Whatever comes first in your mind is what I and my viewers would like to hear. So I will have two or three questions coming to you, Manmeet, and two questions coming to you, Hitesh. So, Manmeet, to begin with you, one word to describe today's cybersecurity landscape.
There are so many, but I feel it is fractured basically because in lot of case studies I have seen that, or I personally also observed that tech team, cybersecurity team, and are not in sync and are oftenly disconnected, and because of that, hacker get an advantage.
Awesome. Your go-to productivity hack during a busy work.
To me,
Yeah.
okay. So being a technology and cyber evangelist, so basically I run my week like a incident response. Okay, I prioritize my task by impact and automate the noise basically, and always leave buffer for unknown and uncertain things.
Awesome. Okay. One cybersecurity myth you wish would disappear forever.
One thing in a lot of discussions, what I have feel and I observed that people think that they are too small, they will not be targeted. Why a hacker will look out for him, and they don't have any critical data. Why they will be targeted? So, but for an attacker, it is love to easy prey, and site doesn't matter for them, and exposure also doesn't matter for them. I think, and now where the sponsor attacks are basically more basically increase, right? So I think for hackers, nothing is matter.
Lovely. Okay, Hitesh, coming to you quickly. A cybersecurity myth you wish would disappear forever.
We've never been breached, right? So a lot of customers believe that we have never been breached. I think either they don't know that they've been attacked, or they know but they don't want to tell us, right?
Right.
So it's impossible that anybody is secure in this world.
And again, one word to describe today's cybersecurity landscape as for you.
One, but I would say two. One is, of course, complex, and second is evolving. Okay, complex because we all see the way transition is happening in terms of technology. The earlier it used to take decade for a technology transition to happen, but today, we hear about AI and ML and all that. Things are changing very fast, right? So it's a catch-up game. And second is things are becoming very complex. Okay, if you do not keep a close watch on this, you will be far left behind, and it will be very difficult to catch up.
True. Okay, awesome. One question to each of you. I'll start with you, Hitesh, and then I'll come to you, Manmeet. If you weren't in cybersecurity or tech, what would you be doing?
Well, I will be into a different world. I love dancing, so I would be
Okay.
probably into that part, enjoying something. Yeah.
Lovely. Manmeet, same question.
If I was not in tech, then I probably be in the uniform,
Oh, wow.
maybe in some armed forces, police.
Superb. Lovely. Great. I really enjoyed this conversation today. Thank you so much, Hitesh. Thank you so much, Manmeet, for taking out time and joining
Thank
me.
you, Khushbu.
Yeah, thank you, Hitesh. Thank you, Khushbu, for big thanks, and thanks to your mainstream crew also actually for the insightful discussions and all. Because now what happened, the cyber world is shifting basically fast, and such kind of discussions matter more. Basically, the conversation help to cut through the noise basically, and it helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the questions are very, very apt. It is very much aligned to what we need
It
today,
was
right?
it was very focused, and what actually really drive to secure and resilient organizations. It was completely relevant.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And also, Hitesh,
Thank you for having us.
very much.